Maid's daughter pointed out fake currency. The deal froze instantly. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. It was a luxurious day in the heart of the city. The sun glinted off the glass windows of the towering skyscrapers, casting a golden glow over everything below. Inside a lavish conference room, a major business deal was about to unfold, one that would change the lives of everyone involved. The air was thick with anticipation as millions of dollars were on the line. A billionaire entrepreneur, Victor Hayes, sat at the head of the table, his expensive suit hugging his tall frame. Around him sat a group of wealthy investors, all eagerly awaiting the signing of a contract that would secure a multi-million-dollar merger. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone knew this deal would be the pinnacle of their careers. The investors exchanged glances, their faces lit with eager excitement. While Victor Hayes maintained his usual calm demeanor, his hands folded on the table in front of him. The deal was practically done, but there was one small detail left before everything could be signed. It was a routine step that no one paid much attention to. As the final documents were passed around, the room buzzed with idle chatter. No one could predict what would happen next. At the far corner of the room, quietly sitting at a small table, was a young girl. Her name was Lily, the daughter of the housekeeper. She had been told to remain invisible, to stay quiet and out of sight while the grown-ups handled business. Her mother, who worked diligently as the cleaning staff in the building, had taken her to work that day. School was out, and the neighbor who usually watched over Lily had fallen ill. The young girl sat with her book, sketching doodles in the margins, trying to ignore the high-powered conversations swirling around her. But as the meeting progressed, something caught her attention. As the papers were being signed, Lily noticed something odd. Her sharp eyes caught a glimpse of a stack of cash sitting at the corner of the table. The money seemed off. She squinted, her curiosity piqued. She had seen plenty of money in her young life, but these bills looked different. They were slightly too smooth, the color not quite right, the edges too crisp. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Something told her that what she was looking at was fake. She wasn't sure why, but a feeling of urgency swept over her. She hesitated for a moment, then stood up. Her small voice cut through the hum of conversation. "Excuse me, but that's not real money," she said softly but firmly. The room went silent. All eyes turned to the young girl, sitting at the far corner of the room, her face calm, yet determined. Victor Hayes, the billionaire businessman, raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. The other investors chuckled nervously, thinking it was some sort of childish mistake. But Lily didn't waver. "That money, it's fake," she repeated. Her voice was steady, but inside, her heart raced. The tension in the room was now unbearable. For a moment, no one moved. The silence was broken only by the faint sound of Lily's breathing, and then, the ripple effect of her words began to sink in. Victor Hayes narrowed his eyes and looked at the stack of bills. He stood up slowly, his sharp gaze scanning the notes with growing disbelief. His hand reached for the money, picking up a bill and examining it closely. As he did, his face paled. There it was, an unmistakable sign of counterfeit. The investors, who had been so sure that the deal was secure, now found themselves in an unexpected standstill. The deal had frozen in an instant, and no one could believe that it was a 10-year-old girl, a maid's daughter, who had saved the day. The billionaire's confident composure crumbled as he stared at the money, then at Lily. The room, once filled with the sounds of excited businessmen, was now utterly still, as the young girl's keen eyes had uncovered what no one else had noticed. She had pointed out a mistake so large that it could have ruined them all. As the realization set in, Victor Hayes turned to Lily, his expression one of stunned gratitude. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted. The young girl, once invisible in the eyes of the elite, had just proven her worth in the most unexpected of ways. As the silence in the room stretched on, the atmosphere had shifted completely. The tension that had once been thick with anticipation now felt like a wave of disbelief. Everyone in the room stood still, staring at the young girl, Lily, who had just exposed a massive flaw in what was supposed to be a flawless deal. The investors, once so confident in their power and position, now looked around, unsure of what to do next. The billionaire, Victor Hayes, slowly placed the counterfeit bills back onto the table, his face no longer displaying the usual air of control. He was shocked. He had built his fortune on sharp business instincts, but here was a young girl, a maid's daughter, who had seen what no one else had. "You're sure about this?" Victor's voice broke the silence. His eyes were narrowed in disbelief, but there was no mistaking the seriousness in his gaze. Lily, standing there with a calm composure that didn't match her age, nodded firmly. "Yes, I'm sure," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of the room's scrutiny. The other investors exchanged confused looks, unable to comprehend how this could have happened. The deal was essentially halted, as no one could risk continuing without further verification. Victor, his mind racing, motioned for his security team to inspect the money, while he turned his attention back to Lily. "How did you know?" he asked, his voice softer now. Lily hesitated for a moment before replying. "I've seen money before. My mom works here, and I've helped her sometimes with counting it. It just didn't look right." The simplicity of her explanation seemed to stun everyone. There was no grand gesture, no flashy display of intellect, just the quiet observation of a young girl who had spent her life in a world far removed from theirs. The realization settled over the room like a heavy fog. This young girl, someone they had all overlooked, had not only noticed something they missed, but had done so in a way that commanded their full attention. Victor sat back down, his mind still reeling. This moment, which should have been a victory for him, was now turning into a humbling experience. He looked around the room at his fellow investors, all of whom were now reluctantly acknowledging Lily's contribution. The room had been filled with the voices of the powerful just moments ago, but now it was silent, as each of them considered the weight of what had just happened. "I think we all owe Lily an apology," one of the investors said finally, breaking the silence. "This deal would have been a disaster without her." The others nodded in agreement. Victor Hayes, the man who had built his empire through ruthless business deals, now found himself looking at Lily with a newfound respect. He hadn't expected to be taught a lesson by a child today. "You've saved us all, Lily," Victor said, his voice full of sincerity. "Thank you." Lily, still standing at the side of the room, simply nodded, her calm demeanor never wavering. She had expected nothing more than to go unnoticed, but now, in this moment, she had done something that no one else could have done. In that instant, the power dynamic had shifted. The man who once held all the power was now humbled by the quiet brilliance of a young girl who had nothing to prove except her own worth. As the meeting slowly resumed, the conversation shifted. What had begun as a business transaction was now something entirely different, a realization that sometimes, those who seem invisible hold the key to unlocking the most important truths. The deal, though temporarily stalled, was ultimately saved, and as the investors shook hands and continued to discuss terms, Lily quietly returned to her seat. But something had changed. The respect that the room now held for her was palpable. She may have been the daughter of a maid, but in that moment, she had proven that sometimes, it is the quietest voices that carry the most weight. The room had settled into an uncomfortable calm. The investors, still in shock, continued to murmur amongst themselves, processing what had just transpired. Lily, though, stood quietly to the side, a sense of calm and quiet dignity in her every move. She had done something no one in the room had expected. She had saved the deal. Victor Hayes, his face still pale from the shock, leaned back in his chair. He couldn't help but stare at the young girl who had caught something so small, yet so significant. He had built his empire with his sharp business mind, and yet, here was a child, the daughter of a housekeeper, who had saved them from an enormous blunder. A small voice interrupted his thoughts. "Lily," it was one of the investors, a woman named Emma, who had spoken up earlier in support of the girl. "You've done something extraordinary today. I think we all owe you more than just an apology." The room was silent as all eyes turned to Lily. She shifted uncomfortably but nodded politely, still standing where she had been since the moment she pointed out the fake money. I just noticed it," she said quietly, looking down at the floor. It was as though she was speaking to herself more than anyone else. But her words hung in the air, powerful in their simplicity. Victor finally stood up, his broad frame casting a shadow over the table as he approached Lily. "I don't think you understand what you've done," he said, his voice softer now. "That deal would have been worth millions, and we would have lost everything." He paused for a moment, his eyes searching her face. "You saved us, Lily." The words were sincere, filled with gratitude that he had never thought to express in such a way before. The room, once full of arrogance and pride, now felt humble. Lily had made them all realize something. They weren't as untouchable as they once believed. The billionaire turned to the others in the room. "I think it's only right that we acknowledge Lily's contribution in some way. A child should never have to be overlooked in a situation like this." The investors exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement. "Yes," said Emma. "She deserves more than just a thank you. Maybe a scholarship or some kind of recognition for her sharp eye and quick thinking." Victor nodded, a rare warmth in his expression. "We'll make sure of that." He turned back to Lily, who was still standing quietly, looking like she didn't quite know what to say. "You've proven today that it's not about titles or money," Victor said, his voice steady. "It's about seeing what others miss. And you saw something no one else did." For the first time since the meeting began, Lily allowed herself a small smile. The tension in the room had finally broken, and in its place was something unspoken, yet powerful. Respect. The investors, who had once been so dismissive of Lily, now saw her for what she truly was, a brilliant, observant individual, capable of more than anyone had imagined. The meeting slowly resumed, but the dynamic had shifted. The business deal, while still important, no longer felt as critical. What mattered more now was the realization that power and wealth did not guarantee success, and that sometimes the quietest voices carried the most weight. As the meeting came to a close, Victor Hayes walked over to Lily once more. "Thank you again," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "You've done more for this company today than anyone could have expected." Lily's cheeks flushed slightly, but she simply nodded. She had expected nothing from this day but to quietly sit in the background, but instead, she had become the one who changed the course of an entire business deal. She wasn't invisible anymore. In that moment, she knew that she had just begun to see the world differently, and the world had certainly begun to see her differently, too. The following days after the meeting felt like a whirlwind for Lily. The quiet girl who had once been nothing more than a shadow in the background of the towering skyscraper was now the subject of hushed conversations in every corner of the building. Her role in saving the deal, which had initially been brushed aside by the powerful men and women in the room, was now acknowledged by everyone. Victor Hayes had kept his word. Not only had he personally thanked her multiple times, but he had also made sure the entire company recognized her sharp mind. News of Lily's keen observation spread like wildfire. At first, the investors and executives had been skeptical. How could a young girl, the daughter of a housekeeper, have saved a multi-million-dollar deal? But their disbelief was quickly replaced by admiration. Victor, still reeling from the moment of realization, insisted that Lily's quick thinking be celebrated. The company, which had been built on hard work, strategy, and wealth, now understood that success wasn't just about numbers and connections. It was about seeing what others failed to see. Meanwhile, Lily's life was changing in ways she never thought possible. Her mother, Abigail, had been cautiously optimistic about Lily's newfound attention, though she was still hesitant to let her daughter become too involved in the spotlight. "Lily," Abigail said one evening, sitting down with her daughter at their small, modest kitchen table, "I'm proud of you. But remember, you didn't do this for the praise. You did it because you knew it was the right thing to do." Lily nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of the worn tablecloth. "I didn't expect any of this," she said softly. "I just thought it was wrong, and I had to say something." Abigail smiled and kissed her daughter's forehead. "That's exactly what makes you special." At the office, things were shifting. Victor had invited Lily to come in and observe the operations of his company. What started as a thank you gesture soon turned into something much more. Lily was given a tour of the building, and as she walked through the halls, she saw a side of the business world she had never imagined. The people who once ignored her now greeted her with respect. The housekeepers, the secretaries, the accountants, they all knew her name, and they all treated her as if she belonged. Her days of being overlooked were behind her. Victor had been true to his word, and he wasn't the only one who had noticed her. Lily was asked to speak at company events, and soon, she found herself in front of a crowd, explaining how she had seen the counterfeit bills. She spoke with the same quiet confidence she had always carried, but now it was with the knowledge that she was being heard. One afternoon, after a particularly successful meeting, Victor sat with Lily in his office. "I've been thinking about your future," he said, his voice steady. "You have a sharp mind, and I want to make sure you have every opportunity to reach your full potential. How would you like to go to school? Not just any school, but the best one." Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "You mean college?" she asked, her voice small. "Yes, college," Victor replied with a smile. "You've earned it, and we'll make sure you have all the support you need to succeed." For the first time in her life, Lily felt like she had a future, one that was entirely her own, shaped by her abilities, not her background. The respect she had earned in that one moment of clarity had opened doors she never imagined possible. She wasn't just the daughter of a housekeeper anymore. She was Lily, the young girl who had changed the course of a multi-million-dollar business deal, and now she had the world at her feet. The weeks following the invitation to join Victor Hayes' company were nothing short of transformative for Lily. She had been thrust into a world she had only seen from the outside, where power, wealth, and influence reigned supreme. However, Lily had proven herself worthy of this world, and now, she was slowly becoming an integral part of it. Her time at the office was no longer just about observing. She was actively participating in meetings, offering suggestions, and learning about the intricacies of business. Victor, who had once seen her only as a quiet, invisible girl, was now mentoring her, guiding her through the complexities of decision-making and leadership. One afternoon, as Lily sat in a meeting room with Victor and his top executives, she felt the weight of the moment. She had been asked to offer her opinion on a potential merger. The room was filled with some of the most powerful people in the company, all waiting for her input. As the conversation swirled around her, Lily listened carefully, weighing the pros and cons just as Victor had taught her. When it was her turn to speak, she stood up confidently. "I think the merger would be a mistake," she said, her voice steady but firm. "We're rushing into it without considering the long-term consequences. We might gain in the short run, but it could cost us in the long run." There was a moment of stunned silence in the room. Victor, sitting at the head of the table, looked at Lily with a sense of pride in his eyes. The executives, who had once overlooked her, now listened intently, taking in her words. After a few seconds, one of the senior executives spoke up. "She's right," he said. "We haven't fully assessed the potential risks. We need to be more cautious." The discussion shifted, and as the meeting progressed, it became clear that Lily's insight had changed the course of the conversation. The merger, once seen as a sure thing, was now on hold for further review. As the meeting ended, Victor pulled Lily aside. "You've done it again," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've shown us all what true leadership looks like. You didn't just go along with the crowd, you questioned it. You made us think." Lily smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment she had never imagined possible. She had not only earned respect, but had also proven that she could make a real impact in a world dominated by powerful figures. Outside of work, Lily's life was also beginning to change in small, but meaningful ways. She had been accepted into a prestigious university, with a full scholarship provided by Victor's company. Her mother, Abigail, was overjoyed, though she remained grounded, reminding Lily to stay humble and focused on her studies. "Remember, Lily," Abigail would say, "this opportunity is a gift, but it's up to you to make the most of it." Lily took her mother's words to heart, knowing that she had already defied the odds once. Now, with the future ahead of her, she was determined to keep proving herself. She had gone from being the quiet daughter of a housekeeper to a respected figure in the business world. But more importantly, she had learned that success wasn't just about money or status. It was about seeing the world differently, speaking up when others wouldn't, and using your voice to create change. As the semester at university began, Lily walked into her first class with a sense of purpose. She knew that this was only the beginning. With the lessons she had learned from Victor, her mother, and from her own experiences, she was ready to face whatever challenges came her way. The future was wide open, and for the first time, Lily knew that she was in control of it. As Lily settled into her new routine at university, the sense of responsibility weighed heavily on her shoulders. She had worked so hard to get here, and now that she was surrounded by the brightest minds, she felt the pressure to prove that she belonged. Her classes were challenging, but Lily thrived in the academic environment. She dove into her studies with the same determination that had saved the deal months earlier. The skills she had honed in Victor's company, attention to detail, critical thinking, and problem-solving, now served her well in the classroom. While she felt a sense of accomplishment, there were moments when the magnitude of what she had achieved felt overwhelming. But Lily had learned from her mother that every achievement, no matter how small, was a step toward something bigger. One evening, as she was studying in the university library, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Victor. "I've been hearing great things about your work. Keep it up. We have big plans for you." Lily smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. Victor had become more than just a mentor. He was like a guiding light, always encouraging her to go further, to push beyond her limits. His words gave her the reassurance she needed. Still, university life wasn't all smooth sailing. Lily continued to encounter obstacles, particularly from some of her wealthier classmates. A few of them, though respectful, seemed to look down on her because of her background. They didn't understand how someone from a working-class family could end up in such an elite institution. It was during one of her group projects that Lily felt the sting of their judgment. As they worked through the details of their presentation, one of her classmates, a young man named Jason, scoffed. "I don't see why we're asking for Lily's opinion. She's not even from here. What does she know about business?" The room fell silent for a moment. Lily's heart sank, but she didn't let the comment show on her face. She had learned long ago to rise above such remarks. She looked directly at Jason, her voice steady but firm. "What I know," she said, "is that business isn't just about knowing the right people. It's about seeing the opportunities others overlook. It's about thinking critically and staying true to your values." The room was quiet for a moment, but then one of her other teammates spoke up. "She's right," Sarah said. "Lily has a perspective none of us do. Maybe we should listen to her." The group fell into a thoughtful silence. Jason, his face reddening slightly, nodded reluctantly. "Fine," he muttered. "We'll listen to you." That moment, small as it seemed, was a victory for Lily. It reminded her that, despite her doubts and the occasional setback, she had a voice that deserved to be heard. Her unique perspective, shaped by her upbringing and experiences, was an asset, not a liability. The more she focused on her studies and her work, the more she began to realize that success wasn't just about the prestige or the connections. It was about the value she brought to the table. As the semester continued, Lily grew more confident in her abilities. Her professors noticed her sharp insights, and her classmates began to seek her out for advice. She wasn't just the quiet girl anymore. She was the one who had saved a multi-million-dollar deal, the one who had challenged the status quo, the one who had earned respect through sheer determination and intelligence. As she sat in a lecture hall one afternoon, looking out the window at the bustling campus below, Lily thought back to everything that had brought her here. She had come from humble beginnings, from a life where she had been overlooked and underestimated. But now, she stood on the threshold of something far greater than she had ever imagined. The world was her oyster, and she was ready to seize it, knowing that with each challenge she overcame, she was proving to herself and to everyone around her that she belonged. As the months passed, Lily's journey continued to unfold in unexpected ways. University life, though challenging, was becoming a platform where she could showcase the strengths that had once been overlooked. Her peers, especially those who had initially doubted her, were starting to see her in a new light. Yet, despite her growing confidence and respect, there were still moments when she felt like an outsider in a world where she didn't quite belong. During one of her business strategy classes, her professor announced a new project, an opportunity for a team of students to work directly with the company Victor Hayes had built. Lily's heart raced. This was the chance she had been waiting for. This was her moment to show just how much she had learned. As soon as the project details were shared, Lily's classmates eagerly jumped at the chance to be part of the team, and it didn't take long before Lily was assigned to a group with some of the brightest students in the class. Yet, not everyone was eager to have her on board. Jason, the same classmate who had once doubted her in that group project, exchanged a glance with his friends as Lily joined the group. He still couldn't shake the feeling that Lily, with her humble background, didn't belong in the high-stakes world of corporate strategy. As the project began, Lily noticed the subtle dismissals, the whispers behind her back, the looks of skepticism. But she had learned not to be discouraged. Instead of letting their doubts affect her, she focused on what she knew best, making sure every detail was considered, analyzing every potential outcome, and using the lessons she had learned from Victor. During their first team meeting, the group members brainstormed ideas for the project. Jason took the lead, as expected, with his polished presentation skills and his well-rehearsed ideas. But Lily remained calm, taking notes and listening carefully. When the team began to veer off track, focusing more on flashy, surface-level strategies rather than solid, long-term plans, Lily knew it was time to speak up. "I think we're missing the bigger picture," she said, her voice steady. "The company needs a solution that's sustainable, not just something that will impress at first glance. We should be thinking about the long-term effects, not just short-term gains." Jason rolled his eyes, clearly irritated by her interruption. "And how do you propose we do that?" he asked sarcastically. But Lily didn't flinch. She had been underestimated too many times before to let that bother her. "I've been paying attention to the company's values," she said. "Victor Hayes built his empire on sustainable growth, on investing in long-term relationships, not just quick profits. We can't afford to forget that." Her words hung in the air, and this time, there was no laughter, no mockery. Her team members, though initially skeptical, began to take notice. Slowly, they started to see that Lily wasn't just the daughter of a housekeeper. She was a thoughtful, strategic thinker. As the project continued, Lily's input became crucial to their success. Jason, despite his initial resistance, began to acknowledge her insights. One afternoon, as they were finalizing their presentation, he leaned over and whispered, "I've got to admit, you were right. The approach you suggested makes more sense. I should have listened to you earlier." Lily smiled faintly, not because she was seeking validation, but because she knew that, in that moment, she had proven something far more important. It wasn't about being right. It was about being seen and heard for the value she brought to the table. The day of the presentation arrived, and Lily's team stood before a panel of executives from Victor's company. As they presented their ideas, it was clear that their strategy had the depth and foresight that the company needed. The executives were impressed. Victor, sitting in the back of the room, couldn't hide his smile as he watched Lily confidently present. When the meeting ended, the panel expressed their enthusiasm for the proposed strategy, and Lily's team was praised for their thoughtful approach. As they left the room, Jason turned to her and said, "I guess I was wrong about you." Lily simply nodded. She didn't need to hear the apology. The change in attitude was enough. For Lily, this was more than just winning a project. It was a sign that, despite the hurdles, she had found her place in the world. She had earned the respect she deserved, and she had done it on her own terms. As she walked out of the building that day, she realized how far she had come. From the quiet girl in the corner of a conference room to the woman who now stood at the forefront of her own future, Lily knew that this was just the beginning. The weeks following the successful presentation were filled with new opportunities for Lily. Her reputation as a bright, strategic thinker had spread beyond her university, reaching the ears of influential people in the business world. What had started as a hesitant step into the corporate world had now blossomed into something far greater. Victor Hayes, who had once seen Lily as the quiet daughter of a housekeeper, now regarded her as a protégé. He began inviting her to key meetings, allowing her to take part in high-level discussions, and pushing her to think even bigger. It was during one of these meetings that Victor posed a question that would change Lily's path forever. "Lily," he asked, as the room full of executives quieted, "what's your vision for the future of this company?" The question hung in the air. Lily had always considered herself more of a strategist than a visionary, but in that moment, something clicked. She had spent so much time learning from Victor, observing how he built his empire, but now she realized that she had her own ideas about what success could look like. "I think the company needs to focus on sustainability," Lily said confidently, her voice steady as she addressed the room. "Not just in terms of the environment, but in the way we build relationships with our partners, customers, and employees. Long-term growth comes from creating something that lasts, not just from short-term profits." There was a brief silence as the executives processed her words. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of such a bold statement from someone so young. But Victor, sitting at the head of the table, smiled. "I like that," he said. "I think you're onto something." The meeting continued, but Lily's mind was racing. She had just articulated something that had been brewing inside her for months. It wasn't just about financial success. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could leave a lasting impact on the world. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of new projects and responsibilities for Lily. She was entrusted with leading a new initiative within the company, one focused on innovation and corporate responsibility. Her ideas were beginning to take shape, and Victor was fully backing her vision. But as the demands of her new role grew, so did the pressure. University, once a space where she could focus solely on her studies, now felt like an afterthought. She struggled to balance her academic work with the demands of the business world. Late nights became routine, and while she thrived in her leadership role at the company, the stress of juggling both worlds started to wear on her. One evening, as she sat in her dorm room, surrounded by textbooks and business plans, Lily felt a sense of overwhelm. She had come so far, but was it worth it? Was she sacrificing too much in pursuit of something bigger? It was in that moment that her phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother, Abigail. "I'm proud of you, Lily. But remember, you are still just a girl with a big heart. Don't forget who you are." The words hit her harder than she expected. Lily had been so focused on proving herself that she had forgotten to take a step back and appreciate the simple things, the things that had gotten her this far in the first place. She wasn't just a business leader or a top student. She was someone who cared deeply about others, someone who had learned the value of hard work and humility from her mother. With newfound clarity, Lily decided to take a moment to breathe. The next day, she made time for herself. She went for a walk in the park, something she hadn't done in weeks. The fresh air, the sound of birds chirping, and the sight of the sun setting over the horizon reminded her that there was more to life than just achievements and accolades. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be true to herself. It was in that moment that Lily realized her journey wasn't about reaching the top or proving herself to others. It was about finding a balance between ambition and authenticity. She had already proven so much, but now, it was time to take a step back and live life on her own terms. As she walked back to her dorm, Lily smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she was ready. With her head held high and her heart grounded in what mattered most, she was ready to face whatever came next. As the final semester of university approached, Lily found herself standing at a crossroads. She had accomplished so much, proven herself in both her academic life and the business world, but now, the pressure of balancing both worlds was taking its toll. Her days were filled with meetings, lectures, and endless to-do lists, and at times, it felt like she was living in a whirlwind. Yet, despite the overwhelming pace of it all, Lily had grown stronger, more confident in her own skin. Her success, earned through hard work and determination, had transformed her not only into a leader, but into someone who had found peace within herself. One afternoon, as she sat in the university's library, Lily took a moment to reflect on how far she had come. She thought about the girl who had once been the quiet daughter of a housekeeper, too often invisible, underestimated by those around her. Now, she was the one people turned to for advice, the one whose ideas shaped business strategies and whose voice was heard in the most important rooms. She had changed the trajectory of a multi-million-dollar deal, earned a scholarship to an elite university, and gained the respect of some of the most influential figures in business. But what mattered most to Lily wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was the journey, the lessons learned, and the people she had met along the way. It was the quiet moments with her mother, Abigail, who had always believed in her, who had taught her that success wasn't just about what you achieved, but about how you stayed true to yourself. With graduation just around the corner, Lily knew it was time to make a choice. She could continue down the path of business, working with Victor and other high-level executives, carving out a career that would be defined by success and wealth. Or she could take a step back and focus on what truly brought her joy, using her talents to make a difference in the world, not just in business. The decision wasn't easy. But one thing Lily had learned over the past few years was that no matter how much the world demanded from her, she couldn't lose sight of what mattered most: her passion for helping others, her drive to create lasting change, and her ability to stay grounded in the values that had shaped her life. That evening, after a long day of exams and meetings, Lily sat with Abigail in their small apartment, sipping tea and talking about the future. "I don't know what's next," Lily admitted, her voice soft but steady. "But I know I want to make a difference. I want to do something that matters, something bigger than just climbing the corporate ladder." Abigail smiled, her eyes filled with pride. "You've always known that, Lily. It's why you've come so far. The world is waiting for you." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of clarity wash over her. She had spent so much time chasing success that she had almost forgotten the real reason behind her journey: to create change, to make a difference, and to live a life that reflected her true values. She didn't need to fit into anyone else's mold. She was already exactly who she needed to be. The next day, Lily made the call. She decided to start her own nonprofit organization focused on empowering young women in underserved communities, giving them access to education and resources that would allow them to pursue their dreams, just as she had done. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she also knew that it was the right path for her. As she stood at the helm of her new venture, Lily realized that her journey was just beginning. She had taken the road less traveled, and while there would undoubtedly be more challenges ahead, she was ready to face them head-on. She had learned that success wasn't measured by how much money you made or the titles you held. It was measured by the impact you had on the lives of others. With a heart full of purpose and a future that stretched out before her, Lily stepped confidently into the next chapter of her life, knowing that no matter what happened, she had already won. In this inspiring journey of transformation, follow the story of a young girl from humble beginnings who defies the odds and enters the world of millionaires. Her rise from the daughter of a housekeeper to a respected figure in the business world is a powerful tale that showcases the true meaning of success. Through determination and intelligence, she not only saves a multi-million-dollar deal, but also earns respect in a world dominated by the wealthy elite. As she navigates the complexities of both academia and business, she discovers her true calling, making a lasting impact on the world through sustainable growth and empowerment. This millionaire story unfolds with powerful lessons on resilience, self-discovery, and the importance of staying true to one's values. It proves that success is not just about wealth, but about creating meaningful change. Through hard work and the unwavering support of her mother, she becomes a force to be reckoned with, inspiring others with her story. Her journey is a testament to the fact that no matter where you start, your ability to make a difference is what truly defines you. As her story reaches new heights, it reinforces the notion that true millionaire stories are not just about the money. They are about the lives touched and the legacies built. This story will inspire anyone who has ever felt overlooked or underestimated to realize their potential and strive for greatness.